welcome back to another episode of the Daily Flip podcast. I'm your host, Alex, and today we're going to be flipping through a story coming from our friends at Daily Wire. This one's talking about how the labor unions are not just present in the workforce, but even union culture has proliferated to graduate school. And of course, we're going to end today with our daily delight, a story meant to leave you feeling positive and ready to take on the day. Now, with that said, let's jump into our daily debate. If you were a modern day grad student, you're going for a degree in history, business, whatever it may be, and you went to school in a state that was a right to work state, would you join a union? So right to work means they can't actually compel you to do it. They can't compel you to join the union. So would you join? I want to know. Maybe you want to find friends. Maybe you want to get the benefits that they provide. Maybe you absolutely hate the idea. I want to know what your opinions are. Throw it down in the comment section. Mainly because this is a layer different than normal politics, because it's a union for graduate students. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. It shouldn't be infringing upon you that much. But as we'll learn from here, we'll get to that other side of the coin shortly. So, like I said, comes from the Daily Wire. The headline reads, "For grad students, Labor Day needs to be a liberation day from radical campus union bosses." And note, this is a opinion piece that was put up by the Daily Wire. That doesn't mean that they actually wrote this themselves, and it is by Mark Mix. Full disclosure, I have met Mark Mix before. He is a delightful gentleman, and he makes some pretty interesting points, no doubt about that. And we're not going to necessarily talk about his politics. We're going to talk about what he is purveying here, what he's talking about on campus, on some of these large campuses. Quote, "Recently, the Trump administration has been using its control over federal education grants to push back against campus radicalism at some of America's most elite universities. Yet still untouched is the massive power that the Obama and Biden administration granted to the campus union bosses, who are frequently at the center of the most extreme and sometimes even most violent so-called quote-unquote activism taking place at universities. It is time that Trump appointees to work to fix it," end quote. So you may be thinking to yourself, whoa, okay, hold on. What does this labor boss on campus actually do? Quote, "It all traces back to a controversial ruling by Obama and Biden National Labor Relations Board, which handed union bosses the power to obtain monopoly representation over graduate and doctoral students. This means union bosses can upend graduate students' academic careers, if they refuse to fund a group whose ideology they find abhorrent, which threatens both academic freedom and religious freedom on campus." So, I live in Virginia. This wouldn't actually touch me too much now if you live in a state like, let's just say New Jersey, or New York. We can go with that one instead. They don't have these sort of right to work protections. So if a union boss says, hey, you're not part of a union, you haven't been paying your dues, you're actually required to, as a union boss, you're not the union boss, the person who is telling you what to do is the union boss, you're actually required, he's telling you that you have to pay these dues to the union in order to continue on with your membership. This has caused so many different students who don't actually want to be in the middle of any of this political stuff. They want to go and get their degree, and maybe some of them want to go and actually push back against some of this leftism. There have been certain students, and Mark Mix brings up a few of them here, who actually have had their careers stalled. Quote, "David, who is Jewish, wants as little as possible to do with the Cornell Graduate Student Union, an affiliate of the United Electrical Union, knowing union officials' virulent opposition to Israel and affinity for the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. But when David exercised his right under federal law and demanded an accommodation to union dues payments based on his religious beliefs, union officials refused. They harassed Rubenstein and other religious objectors with unnecessary and illegal questionnaires that demanded they divulge particulars about their religious practice, their faith organizations, and their faith leaders, so on and so forth," end quote. So you may be saying, "Well, okay, whoa, Alex, are we standing up for one religion or the other? What? No, we're not trying to be biased here. It's an example that he brings up. I don't really care if it was this person was a spaghetti monster believer, because it shouldn't matter what your religion is. You should not be forcibly part of any union. You, by simply working in an industry, should not be at the behest, the beck and call, or under the thumb of anybody else. If you go to work at a small mom and pop shop and they tell you that you have to, so say there's three other people, you have to join a Monday night bowling league with these employees. You may not love the idea, you may love the idea, it doesn't really matter. For those of you who don't want to do it, you may say that, well, that's unfair. Why would I want to do that? In that case, you could probably find a comparable job somewhere else and move away. In some of these industries that are hyper specialized and have unions that are hyper specialized, and they focus on very specific domains, and they have a large proliferation, maybe you can't find another job. Maybe if you don't want to be part of this, you're forced into it. And I don't mean forced into it by the mere fact that, oh, you take the job and they literally take you out to the back and say you're going to join the union, even though it is effectively that. But say that you are trying your best to opt out of it and you find no other path to utilize your degree, your skills that you've gathered over years upon years. Now, I would actually argue that you're not truly forced, because guess what? You can choose to go somewhere else. But the mere fact that you have to make that choice shows how onerous these unions can be and how much they can infringe upon people's ability to choose and also to prosper. Now, you have no right to prosper. There's no Now, I would know there are a few people on both sides of the aisle would disagree with me here. You have no right to prosper. You have the right to a system that you've agreed into that provides some level of stability and framework. And even then, the stability isn't guaranteed. It provides a method to obtain that. That's the furthest I would say, because even then, you're actually giving something up in order to join it. It's not simply that you have the right to it merely by existing. You have to give up your time. You have to participate in a jury system. You have to take the time to care about political representation. Otherwise, do you really have a say in what's going on? And should you be truly active in it? I don't know. That's a great question for another day. But these cases are of people who do not even want to put in the time effort to be a part of it. They don't even want to participate in these systems. It is not voluntary. It is not optional. And they are not only limiting these individuals, these unions are not only limiting these individuals' abilities to prosper, but they are actually actively hindering them when they are trying to demand that they do not have to be forcibly a part of these sort of things. And while Mark makes a really compelling argument in person, I would come and read this entire article. There's just two case examples that he mentions here, and they're both going through the court system right now. And I say, look at them not just because, oh, they're unfair. Oh, look at these people. Look at these terrible examples. I bring them to you simply to illustrate a point, which is there are people within our nation who are simply trying to better themselves and go through university without having to deal with any outside factors. They already are spending thousands upon thousands of dollars in order to get an education, in order to give up their freedom to be on campus or to give up their time. And yet somebody else wants to not only take away more of their time, their energy, but also wants to say you owe us more money. For coming here, you not only have to pay to be a member of the school, you have to pay to continue going to school because you have to pay these union dues. It's a little bit outrageous, but hey, maybe I'm just a guy. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, I can tell you in one case I do, which is these 20 photos are absolutely adorable from foster cats. I'm not a huge cat guy, but these photos that I'm going to share in the link in the description below, the like and subscribe button, have not only the gender and the name of the cat, but they're professionally taken. It kind of looks like they're on a set, though I'm pretty sure it's a blanket for some of them. Point being, if you want to have a little bit of a brighter day, if you want to leave this article not feeling like, whoa, what did Alex just hit us with, but rather finishing off the day with a smile, or starting off the day with a smile, depending on when you're listening, You can find this article as well as the other opinion article by Mark Mix down in the description. Like I said, below the like and subscribe button. Also down there, you can find the podcast on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Podvine, as well as the Twitter handle at Your Daily Flip, where I post these episodes, the links to these episodes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the links to the 6 and 6, which is 6 stories from around the world in 6 minutes or less, meant to make international news a little bit more consumable. So, with all that said, there's only one more thing to say. Stay safe. Don't die.